In this video, we're going to tell you about the easiest and most powerful machine to make money with almost zero effort or experience required. Compound interest. We know it sounds like a cheap hook, but even Albert Einstein once said, "Those who understand this concept earn the money on it, and those who don't pay for it." We'll explain the key 3 elements you need to consider so you can take advantage of this concept for yourself. So let's get it started and stick around for the surprise ending. Welcome to our Ready for Mars channel, where you can find both big ideas and helpful tips about personal finance, development, and health. Not only do we explain things in simple terms, but we also try to squeeze out the essence for you. The goal of this channel is to help you become just better. Compound interest can best be explained by giving this example. Imagine you only have $1 to invest, and being a smart guy, you can have a 100% return every year, which basically means you double your wealth every year. So in the second year, you will have $2, and $4 in the third year, and so on. Let's start this process early. Say when you're 25 and want to quit the game at 65 when most of us retire. This would give us 40 years to double our precious $1 note. Do you wonder how much money you would have in your bank account afterwards? Be ready to spend over $1 trillion. Let us just mention that the whole US equity market capitalization is almost $25.9 trillion US dollars as of July 2021. Or you could simply buy a company like Tesla or Amazon for yourself. You literally wouldn't be able to spend all that money. The exaggerated example shows the power of compounding, the concept of a simple formula with just 3 elements: base capital, compounding rate, and time. The key idea is to keep on reinvesting your interest gains by adding it to basic capital so that this too can be compounded again in the next stage. Other words, you put interest on interest and repeat the process. It's like a snowball rolling down the hill. It starts small and gets bigger and bigger while rolling. And now a small break for the Warren Buffett at HBO documentary film to add his perspective.
Einstein is reputed to have said that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world or something like that. And it goes back to that story you probably learned when you were in grade school where somebody did something for the king and the king said, "What can I do for you?" And he said, "Well, let's take a chessboard and put 1 kernel of wheat on the first square and then double it on the second and double it on the third." And the king readily agreed to it. And by the time he figured out what 2 to the 64th amounted to, he was giving away the entire kingdom. So it's a pretty simple concept, but over time, it accomplishes extraordinary
Warren
things.
is proof of compounding efficiency, as a majority of his wealth comes from his years of investing. As Buffett and Einstein both support this idea, maybe you should think about it as well and use it as a tool for creating your own wealth. Both examples show extraordinary profits of 100%. But this formula works with small numbers as well. We hope it does, as nobody can spend $1 trillion when they retire. Of course, you have no chance to earn such profits, as even Buffett could only do 23% on average. But let's see what happens if you dare for just 10%. 10% is surely achievable. For example, the S&P 500 index brought an average of 10%, including dividends, for the last 65 years, since its inception in the current format. You can have this profit by simply buying popular ETFs that follow the market at almost no cost. But we will talk about this more in the next video. Let's say that 10% is already yours with basically zero effort, and let's assume your investment is run tax-free under an IRA or 401k account, which we will also cover in the separate video. And now the hardest part. Would you be able to keep investing regularly for 40 years? Most people can't. But let's see what happens if you would stand and save just $100 a month, $1,200 per year. With the compounding machine working for you at 10% compounding rate, you will end up with $585,422 for your 65th birthday. Nice. Consider that you can save slightly more for a period of time if doing well, and slightly less if doing worse. Of course, inflation matters here, so let's agree that you will adjust your saving deposits by inflation rate every year to maintain the saving input value. On the graph below, you can see how much of it is your deposit and how much is compounded interest. Now let's take a short comparison of what would happen if you withdrew your profits every year to spend it instead of leaving them at your compounding machine. You would end up with $54,000 only. Check the difference. It's almost 11 times the difference. Wow. And now, an even better example. Imagine that you start this $1,200 a year game when you have a baby born and decide to set up a separate compounding machine for it. You do it for 21 years and then let him take over the machine to keep compounding until your child gets retired. At the age of 65, they will net almost $6 million. So by the simple habit of saving a relatively small amount of money and teaching this to your children, you can be sure they will do very well when they retire. Frankly speaking, they do not even have to succeed much in life, and by following this simple rule, they will still do very well at their late age. All you need to do is to start the process as early as possible. The goal of the above calculation is to show you how powerful, effortless tools you have in your hand. The three elements of the formula are input capital, compounding rate, and time. Out of them, most probably the last one is the toughest for any human being to overcome, but we will cover it in a separate video, of course. Normally, you can compound interest, profits, or dividends. In some aspects, this concept can be adopted to soft terms as well, such as positive emotions, goodwill granted to others, love given to our children, etc. As the compounding is called the eighth miracle of the world, or most powerful force on earth. Maybe it's worth considering taking the advantage of it while building your own wealth. Remember, keep it simple. Just save and compound. Let's summarize. All you need to do is to start early, reinvest profits, and stay long in the game. Keep in mind that for this strategy, you do not need high-risk investments, as you have a long-term perspective. Lower but steady gains will do much better. Remember also that as this concept works in your favor when building assets, this can also work against you when having unpaid liabilities. Let's have one more great speaker giving his opinion on compound interest. Hope you like this video.
You need to view this number through the lens of what's known as compound interest. Sometimes I'll talk about this as the magic of compounding. Think of it like this. If you invest $100 in the S&P 500 and it gains 10% in the first year, then you've got $110. After another year of 10% gains, you've got $121. A third year of the same gives you $133. The gains keep getting larger and larger because each year you're making additional money off the previous year's profits. Eventually, with a 10% average return, you'll double your money in roughly 7 years. Now, for those of you who are really young, right out of college, waiting 7 years to double your money, I know, it seems like an eternity. And listen, I've got more risky ways of growing your capital faster if you stay tuned. However, the truth is that as you get older, an investment that can pretty consistently, take your money up in 7 years' time and double it, well, I'll tell you, it just becomes pretty incredible. That said, the magic of compounding works best the younger you are, because that means you have more time for your money to grow. Yet, sadly, young people are the least likely to be impressed by that kind of steady capital appreciation. That's why acclaimed economist George Bernard Shaw famously said that youth is wasted on the young. Okay, he wasn't an economist, a good writer, though. So let me do my best to make these numbers sound more impressive. I'm going to walk you through it. Suppose you're 22 years old and you're just entering the workforce. You've got more than 40 years before you're expected to retire. So let's say you invest $10,000 in an S&P 500 index fund right now. And let's also suppose that the next 40 years aren't too different from the last 40 years. In that case, if the average return from the S&P 500 holds steady at around 10%, then in 4 decades, your $10,000 investment will turn out to be worth more than $450,000.
Share with us your compounding experience or any doubts about it at the comment section below. As the long timing is required in this concept, we suggest you stay part of the community of people who share and follow this simple idea. This will be very supportive. And now, the promised cherry at the end, a funny quiz, the concept of which we took from Warren Buffett's annual meeting speech. Imagine you are a member of an intelligent Lenape Indian tribe in the 17th century in the US. The chief of the tribe is quite a smart guy and can invest at 10% on average every year, so you all decide to sell your useless Manhattan Island for $24 in 1626 to the silly Dutch people. In 2021, your descendants decide to quit the investment game and take up the money finally. Can you guess how much they could take up today? Try to give your best guess in the comments before you read the answer. The right answer can be found in the description section of the video about 60 investing rules.